He was a very, very down-to-earth type of person. He loved life. He loved everything in it. A helper, a giver. I really finally got to understand who my dad was and why he was the way he was when he got taken away. My grandma told the police, she said, could you take my son to jail or, just take him because I feel like he's gonna do something. Police was like, no, ma'am, he has to break the law. She was like, what y'all want him to do, kill somebody?
April 15th, Thomas was arrested for shooting a man in the chest outside his parents' home and then later firing shots inside Potawatomi Casino.
He was facing 63 years. I knew that right there, my life was gonna change forever.
It's hard to transcend the social strata in Milwaukee. A lot of the problems are systemic issues that even are bigger than the individual communities. There's this aggravation, and it's been that way for decades.
I've been part of a team looking into the deaths in the Milwaukee County Jail for almost a year. After looking into the case of Terrill Thomas, it became clear that the problems were nothing new. Lawsuits filed against the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office alleged that since 2011, at least 40 women were shackled while giving birth. Since 2008, at least 17 people have died while in the sheriff's custody.
My brother called me and told me that our father was dead. And they just was like, we don't really have a cause of death. He just passed away.
I don't know. I just got here. I don't even know things.
That God, we fuck with y'all. Call us.
Over the course of 6 months in 2016, 4 people died in the Milwaukee County Jail, including an infant. Terrill Thomas was one of those people. His family said that he was battling untreated bipolar disorder. Originally, officials ruled the death as unknown. Terrill's son hired Walter Stern and Daniel Storm to represent him in a federal civil rights lawsuit.
Anybody would know that he needed water. If you look at his face from the booking photo and look at his face at the end, it was like a peanut. Didn't look like him anymore.
Terrill lost nearly 35 pounds during his week in jail. The attorneys and family members of deceased inmates held a press conference to demand accountability.
When you found out his cause of death, what was your reaction?
This right here. I was still. I couldn't function, That's my father. They took away a piece of me. They took away me,
What are you hoping for in return from this civil rights suit?
Justice. I don't care about anything else but justice. The people who did this to my father, I want them to be held accountable.
In all honesty, I'd rather die before I go back to county jail. And I put that on my daughter. There was inmates in there that was praying and couldn't wait to get to their prison time. And I didn't understand it. But every day that went past, I was understanding it.
Sheriff David Clark is an undercover killer. He killing us slowly, but for surely. He's giving us slow deaths.
David Clark was appointed sheriff by Wisconsin's governor in 2002. Despite his conservative leanings, Clark ran as a Democrat and was elected 4 times as sheriff of Milwaukee County.
Jails are an effective crime control tool. That's what they were designed for, to separate law-abiding citizens from the perpetrators.
With Clark staying busy as a regular on Fox News, his deputy, Richard Schmidt, was left to oversee the daily operations of the sheriff's office.
People love Sheriff Clark. And by the way, Rich Schmidt loves Sheriff Clark. The jail back 31 years ago is nowhere near like the jail is today. It was a massive culture shock to me. I walked in after getting hired the first day and I was like, what in the world did I get myself into?
A lawsuit filed by inmates against Milwaukee County resulted in a 2001 settlement that imposed constitutional requirements for conditions of confinement. After a decade of failing to meet standards, David Clark and Richard Schmidt pushed hard for privatizing inmate health care.
Item number 7 from the Office of the Sheriff, notifying the County Board of an emergency purchase for a psychiatric services contract.
Under Clark, key medical positions went unfilled for years.
We were able to find a psychiatrist through Armor Correctional Services.
What is it with you guys in Armor Correction? I just find it hard to believe that we have only one company that responds to this stuff.
Armor Correctional Health Services is a for-profit healthcare company based in Florida. The company contracts with jails and prisons in at least 8 states, including an immigration detention facility. Armor is mentioned in dozens of civil rights lawsuits and is currently banned from doing business in the state of New York for placing inmates' health in jeopardy.
Armor is the only company that has come in at a bid that was reasonable and that did exactly what the county needed in order to come in compliance.
The county board pushed back against their proposals.
We're held responsible for our constituents to look at these major changes.
But due to budget cuts and non-compliance, the county board awarded Armor an annual contract of $16.5 million.
Now, that sheriff's office is run by Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark. According to the Journal Sentinel, other inmates heard Thomas beg for water in the days before he died. Clark's office said it would not be commenting on the case until all investigations and possible lawsuits have ended.
The case of Terrill Thomas was re-examined when the district attorney called for a rare legal process known as a coroner's inquest. Over the course of a week, investigators questioned jail staffers, medical personnel, and inmates before a 6-person jury. The purpose of the inquest was to determine responsibility for Terrill's death.
Mr. Thomas had been changed over, everything was good, I had no reason to come back, they took care of him.
Testimony revealed that Terrill was accused of clogging his toilet and flooding his cell in the jail's mental health unit. Staff moved him to a solitary cell in the disciplinary unit, where they preemptively cut off his water supply.
Is that an unusual practice?
Yes, we don't usually do that.
Policy regarding turning an inmate's water off has changed since Thomas's death.
Investigator Robert Stelter of the DA's office testified that jail logs showed 15 other inmates had their water shut off in 2016.
What I never saw in any of those 15, though, was any indication in the log that the water was turned back on for any of those 15 inmates.
Did the status of Terrill Thomas ever come up during conversations you had with these lieutenants?
They all knew about it. They all would say, hey, how's that guy doing? It was a running theme. Said, what's going on with the guy?
Guards say they would check on him every half hour per protocol.
He was never taken out for 7 straight days. They're supposed to get at least 1 hour per day.
Officer Mario Dantzler was asked if he spoke to any psychiatric social workers about Terrill's condition.
And they come in to interview and ask other inmates how they're doing mentally. When she came in, I said, forget all that. I said, what's going on with the guy over here? And she said, you know what, Dantzler? Phew, that's kind of over my head.
There was conflicts between Armor employees and correctional staff as to really what should be done with Terrill.
Evidence introduced to the jury revealed a practice of neglecting log entries, some related to the chase or the water access points in the jail. Poor record keeping meant only surveillance footage could prove the holder of the chase key.
But detectives never see that video because, as court testimony revealed, the video was destroyed prior to detectives learning it even existed.
This was almost a year after Mr. Thomas died that we finally figured out that Captain Gold had actually watched the whole video and knew all along who had entered the chase and who had not entered the chase.
Captain Gold says he reported what he learned from the surveillance video to the jail commander, Major Nancy Evans.
She told a completely different story, that Captain Gold never told her what he saw on that video, and she actually accused him of lying to law enforcement.
In his closing statement, the district attorney played an audio recording of an inmate's first-hand account of what he believed happened to Terrill.
They refused to feed this man 7 days. He didn't eat,
7 days he didn't sleep. 7 days he didn't drink any water. They refused to turn on his waters. They starved this man to death. He died from starvation, sleep, deprivation, and dehydration.
The jury recommended charges against 7 jail staffers for probable wrongdoing. Days after George Gold testified, he unexpectedly stepped down as captain. Several months later, David Clark followed suit.
His departure has been rumored for some time. The timing has caught everyone here by surprise.
Governor Scott Walker will not name a replacement for Milwaukee County Sheriff. Richard Schmidt will serve out the remainder of former Sheriff David Clark's term.
Everyone really innately, if you will, understands that there is the right thing to do and there is the wrong thing to do. It's really probably one of the greatest services as a Christian that we can perform in the law enforcement field is to hold these people accountable. That's what our society demands, and it's what they quite frankly deserve.
Richard Schmidt actually did like a media event allowing media to come in and see Schmidt's jail.
That's why you're here today, to witness that this is taking place. It is a transparent transformation. I could go on and on and on of the many different things we've done, but the jail, and I'm very confident that has been transformed since September 1st when I took over.
Even after these changes were made by Schmidt, there was still another death in the jail.
Breaking story, an inmate at the Milwaukee County Jail died this afternoon. The man was in the mental health unit. The staff performed CPR, but the effort was not successful.
Neither David Clark nor Richard Schmidt agreed to be interviewed for this story. However, they both found time to call into a local talk radio show to point fingers.
Sheriff Schmidt, if you want to talk directly to Sheriff Clark, I feel like one of those old-time phone operators. Here, you're on with Sheriff Clark.
The thing that I absolutely have to take exception with is not knowing about the death or the deaths. I mean, good night, the media jumped on it. Everybody knew about it.
Unlike what he did, I take full responsibility for what was going on there. Whether I knew about it or not, when you're the sheriff, when you're the guy or the girl, it all falls on you. That's an aspect of leadership, too.
I was absolutely over the day-to-day operations of the entire Milwaukee County Sheriff's Office. But again, I'm not fighting with Sheriff David Clark. I have no intentions of going after him whatsoever.
It wouldn't be a wise idea if you would, but that's cool.
If you were to look at it in ascending order of responsibility, obviously the correctional officer that was responsible for turning the water off, he did so well under orders, but also had an obligation to notify other people that had taken place. And the next order of responsibility is the supervisory responsibility, and that's directed at Lieutenant Metters, who actually ordered the water to be turned off and then had an obligation to make sure that the water was turned on. And then ultimately, there is a command responsibility to make sure that all of these steps are followed correctly. So at all three different levels, that's what we're focused on.
Continuing up that chain of command, was Sheriff Clark investigated as part of this?
We did a thorough investigation, and again, we're focusing on the individuals that we think are most responsible.
The district attorney charged 3 jail staffers in connection with Terrill's death.
Somebody was going to die. The writing was on the wall. There were several warnings. There's no solace in being right about this because in 2011, we testified against this contract with Armor. In 2012, during the budget process, we submitted a report on Armor entitled Bribery and Bad Medicine, outlining some of their very, very questionable behaviors and responsibility for other deaths.
Armor is facing misdemeanor charges on 7 counts for intentionally falsifying Terrill Thomas's medical records.
You know, strive for better, but always remember to live truthfully. Even the people who are wrong in this situation, I hope that they can take this situation and make their life better, you know?
This ain't the beginning. This ain't the first time this ever happened. And I'm pretty sure this won't be the last time it happened. Something needs to happen. Are people dying?
The 3 charged were all convicted with jail sentences ranging from 30 days to 9 months. David Clark joined a pro-Trump super PAC and is receiving a 6-figure annual pension from Milwaukee County. Richard Schmidt plans to retire with a pension totaling nearly $1 million after losing the Democratic primary to Erno Lucas. Lucas is a 25-year veteran of the Milwaukee Police Department and now leads the Sheriff's Department. Armor Correctional is facing up to $175,000 in fines and lost its contract in Milwaukee County.